The Reno Downtown Enforcement Team is on the move to clean up weekly motels of crime and poor living conditions. This latest effort, the second in 3 months, focused on quality of life issues at the Castaway Inn.
We've been receiving numerous complaints from the tenants here, as well as the other residents that live in this area, about the continued drug use, drug activity, prostitution, and quality of life issues here for the residents.
The enforcement team, which is made up of officers who are paid with downtown task district funds, led a group made up of code enforcement and health department officers, as well as fire and OSHA officials who went door to door to uncover crime and blight.
We've arrested 1 individual for possession of dangerous weapon. We've cited 3 more for occupying a motel room without being on the registry. And we've also cited an individual for being an ex-felon and failing to register here to this address.
Of the bed bugs there, some of the unsafe electrical. They had some extension cords running instead of permanent electrical installations. They had extension cords taped and stapled to parts of the building. And we found other issues, including some roof leaks and some deteriorated sheetrock.
The Castaway is just one of several motels in downtown Reno that were a popular destination for tourists coming to Reno to gamble. Now they are low-income housing for Reno residents. City law enforcement really saw a change in the type of customer at the motels in the early 90s. From law-abiding tourists to low-budget weekly motels that attracted drug dealers and prostitutes. About 7 years ago, the Reno Police Department began the Motel Interdiction Team to address the high volume of crimes and calls for service. That group originally came up with the concept of a team effort to address the criminal element, code violations, and truancy. The Downtown Enforcement Team expanded that effort into the type of sting operations going on now.
Criminal element will take advantage of that opportunity and that environment, especially if the management is not paying attention. And some of those older buildings, yes, they were designed in the 50s and the 60s for tourists and for people to come stay in when they were getting their quickie Nevada divorces. But instead of just staying there for a weekend, they've turned into long-term living. And so they are cramped and they're not designed for long-term living, even though that is a permitted use now.
Apart from those on the edge are residents who can't get traditional apartment or other housing, or for one reason or another don't want to abide by the rules that go with most tenant-landlord relationships.
It's a little above tent city and having to stay in the shelter. It's their next step up.
In this situation, code enforcement officers found unsanitary living conditions in this rental unit. It was condemned and the woman was moved to another room. The Downtown Enforcement Team will continue to do surveillance at the numerous downtown motels to cut the calls for service and create better living conditions.
Once we identify a problem location, we want to address whatever issues are going on there and make it better. And then we can move on and eventually, hopefully the downtown experience is better for everybody.
The Crest, which is on West 4th, the lead officer and I ran the calls for service, and instead of the police department going out there 8 times a night, in the last 6 months the police department ended up going out there only twice a week. So our efforts to improve the living qualities for the tenants and the surrounding properties are shown in the level of calls for service and the types of calls for service that the police respond to after these incidents, and the types of calls that code enforcement has to go out on, because we know that the living conditions inside the units have improved.